Foraging for food and wild edibles in America has a long and interesting history. The Native Americans were the first foragers and they learned a lot from foraging. Edible wild plants and foods were used for many years by the Native Americans for day-to-day eating and also as healing herbs. In fact, it was the Native Americans who first discovered that the same plant growing in different areas had different properties. Were they the first hydroponic gardeners? It very much seems that they were aware edible plants could have different health benefits depending on where they were growing. Wild edibles and early European settlers. When the first European settlers arrived in America, they soon realized it was going to take some time to get farms and food production established. Many made contact with the Native American Indians and learned from them. However, the American Indians also learned from the Europeans. The rat's tail plantain, Plantago major, was one of the plants brought over by the early settlers. The seeds were brought over by accident by the European settlers and quickly spread. The plant thrives on rough ground, and Native Americans soon started to use it as a salad herb. They called it Englishman's foot, and it proves how important foraging foods in America has been important for a long time. Foraging for foods and edible plants in America 101. What you need to know about wild edibles. When you first start to forage foods in America or anywhere else for that matter, it is a good idea to invest in a foraging guide. Learning how to forage food safely is important. Not all edible wild plants and foods are meant for human consumption, and some wild edibles need to be harvested and handled in a certain way. Why do people forage for wild edibles and foods? Foraging for foods means free food, and perhaps this is one of the reasons foraging foods is become so popular. But there are other reasons as well. Edible wild plants and foods are packed with nutrition and are often better for you than the food you buy in the supermarket. Great nutrition can certainly be found in wild edibles. Are all wild edibles really wild plants? Over the years, many cultivated crops have escaped to the countryside. Prime examples are apples, asparagus, berries, cherries, and grapes. Many have thrived in their new environment, and there is no reason they should not be part of a forager's diet. Why pay for apples if they grow wild in your local area? Wild edibles, where can I find them? Wild edibles can be found in parks, woodland, meadowland, and the seaside. For some reason, we often ignore foraging for food along the shoreline, but many seaweeds are perfectly edible. Sea beets or sea spinach grows just like cultivated spinach along coastal paths and sea walls. It is an excellent source of beta-carotene, iron, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. Sea beets is used in the same way as garden cooking and can be frozen for up to a year. Plants can also be found growing in or near streams. Watercress is a perfect example of a wild edible plant which is found growing in streams. When you get it home, you can either eat it straight away or you can freeze it. The health benefits of watercress are well known. It has been used as medical herb both in Europe and North America for many years. Should I pick the entire plant when foraging for foods? When you are foraging for food and gathering wild edibles, there are two things you should bear in mind: sustainability and respect. You may want to come back to the same spot next year and pick more of the plant if you enjoyed eating it. If you have picked most of the plants in an area, there may not be enough plants to sustain growth. Respect is important as well, and that is something the American Native Indians always kept in mind. They realized they were not alone in making use of a certain plant and only shared nature with others. Don't overharvest. You are not doing yourself or nature any favors. Edible wild plants and foods are just as important to many of the creatures that live in the countryside. It is all too easy to lose sight that we are part of nature. Can I forage for food around factory and waste disposal sites? When you are out foraging for wild edibles, you should avoid contaminated sites. Former factory and waste disposal sites may be high in certain heavy metals. The compounds found in heavy metals such as mercury are highly toxic, and the plants growing in the area will also absorb them. Consequently, the toxins packed are passed on to you. What plants are safe to eat? Is it safe to eat stinging nettles? It is perfectly safe to eat stinging nettles. You may want to wear gloves when handling the plant, but small fresh shoots found in spring are the best. The stinging quality of the plant comes from formic acid, which is destroyed by cooking. Stinging nettles contain more iron than many other wild edibles, so this is certainly a plant you should harvest. Once again, it can be frozen and enjoyed throughout the year. How to cook and prepare stinging nettles for eating. Before cooking stinging nettles, you should remove any woody and tough stems. Boil the leaves for about 15 minutes, drain the water but don't discard it, and add to a frying pan and fry with some onion. You can also try make a nettle soup using vegetable stock. Whisk in a blender and you will have a lovely warming soup which really packs a nutritional punch. Never throw away the nettle water. It is full of healthy compounds. Instead of discarding it, let it cool and then water your houseplants or garden with it. Top gardeners around the world claim nettle water is the secret to their success. Foraging for burdock. Burdock is another plant which arrived with the early settlers to America. Today, it is still very common in the UK, and it is believed the seeds of this plant arrived on the boots of the settlers. It loved the climate of North America and soon started to spread throughout the continent. Burdock is often called wild rhubarb, and it does look very much like garden rhubarb. The best parts of the plant to pick are the leaf stems, which begin to sprout around May. Just like rhubarb, the stems should be cut into 2-inch lengths and the hard outer peel removed. Burdock tastes great when added to salad along with asparagus, but it can also be used when making stews and soups. Unlike rhubarb, it is a much more complex taste sensation. Burdock tastes nutty with a touch of fennel and an aftertaste of cucumber. When you are switching to a plant-based diet, it is one of those wild edibles almost certainly the entire family will enjoy. Besides, most family members will enjoy gathering plants and then to prepare them. Foraging for wild edible berries. Berries are one of the wild edibles you simply must forage for when you start getting into foraging. It does not matter if you are a prepper or dedicated to a plant-based diet. Berries are simply one of the foods you must have in your vegan pantry. When you go out to foraging food, berries are one of the best foods you'll come across in the countryside. Not only will you save a lot of money by gathering your own berries, but most berries are packed with great nutrition. Are all berries safe to eat? No, not all berries are safe to eat, and you should not eat berries which you are not familiar with and recognize. Berries are some of the most versatile foods you can find in the countryside. First of all, they are easy to store long term. You can freeze them or dry them in a food dehydrator. Berries can be consumed in a variety of ways. Needless to say, you can eat them raw as soon as you come home, or you can freeze them. If you would like to freeze your berries, it is important to give them a wash before you put them in the freezer. This is not done by putting them under the cold water faucet and running cold water over them. If you do so, you can damage the berry, which will lead to poor taste and loss of valuable nutrition. When you would like to freeze berries, invest in good quality cartons and freeze them quickly. Go through your harvest to remove any berries which are damaged, do not look healthy, and then soak for about 15 minutes in a large pot of cold water. Both blackberries and wild raspberries often enjoy the company of little hangers-on. When you put them in a cold water, these unwelcome visitors will crawl out and you can remove them with a sieve. Poisonous berries that travel to the New World. When the early European settlers came, they also brought with them the seeds to some less than welcome visitors. Poisonous berries such as deadly nightshade arrived and did cause deaths among the American native Indians. 2 or 3 berries are enough to kill a small child, so don't add them to your diet. Other poisonous berries which are easy to assume are wild edibles or cuckoo pines, also known as lord and ladies, holly in all parts of the yew tree, and especially the berries which contain the seeds, which are particularly poisonous. Rowan or mountain ash. Rowan trees grow in woodland and upland areas. During the fall, orange-red berries appear and the rowan berries make a great jelly. They are one of the richest sources of vitamin C which can be found in nature, and were used to treat scurvy, which is the disease you develop when you suffer from vitamin C deficiency. Can you eat wild strawberries? Wild strawberries are perfectly safe to enjoy. They are very small and used to treat kidney stones. Unfortunately, they don't freeze very well and are best eaten fresh. You will find them during the summer, and Native American Indians used them to treat disease of the digestive system. Can I eat wild nuts safely? Wild nuts should certainly be part of your wild edibles shopping list. Are they safe? Yes, they are safe, but you want to be a little bit careful with wild walnuts. They can be rich in cyanide. However, you should not let that stop you from foraging for wild walnuts. Instead of eating them raw, you can pickle them. The pickling process will destroy the cyanide in walnuts and they will be perfectly safe to eat. Hazelnuts are great when it comes to foraging for wild edibles, and you are not going to be the only one to think so. Remember that you need to share your hazelnuts with many woodland creatures. They are rich in vitamin E and you will find them in nature around September. Sweet chestnuts are great as well, and if you are a keen gym goer, they can help to keep your energy levels up. Normally, you will find chestnut trees grow in cluster, and even a complete woodland area may be taken up by chestnut trees. Of course, you should store them and keep them both for Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Can I eat wild garlic? Wild garlic is safe to eat, and just like cultivated garlic, it can be dried. The active ingredient in both cultivated and wild garlic is called allicin. Wild garlic is richer in allicin than its cultivated cousin. The drying process of wild garlic is a little bit different, as the high level of allicin makes it a little bit wetter. Keep your wild garlic intact until you get home, and then remove any dirt of leaves which do not look so healthy. Tie off just above the bulb and place in a brown paper bag. But before you hang it up to dry, cut the bottom of the bag out, making sure the bulb is not exposed. This will ensure your wild garlic will dry without going moldy due to the high allicin content. There are 2 types of wild garlic in the United States. The white variety is a native variety which can also be found in Europe. It looks very similar to lily of the valley. In the southern United States, you are much more likely to come across the pink variety. It is thought to have come across with the Spanish settlers to the New World, or even made its way up from South America. Pink garlic was more than likely introduced to the American continent by the conquistadors. One thing is for sure, wherever they went, wild pink garlic can be found growing. Wild pink garlic can be grown in a kitchen garden and make an excellent companion plant for many of your vegetables. Should I pick fungi? Unless you are very familiar with the fungi, it is best not to forage for fungi. Take a local class and find out what fungi grow in your area. Some fungi are very poisonous and can even kill in a matter of hours. Unlike some other poisonous plants, there may not be any antidotes for poisons found in fungi. The death cap fungi may look innocent and a bit like a mushroom. It is one of the deadliest fungi on our planet and should be avoided at all costs. Is wild celery the same as cultivated celery? When you are out foraging food and wild edibles, this is one plant you should try to find. You will find it growing near rivers and in marshes. It is very similar to the cultivated variety but is much richer in the antioxidant phenolic acid, which makes it important as a healing herb. The wild variety of celery has diuretic properties and can be used to treat arthritis, rheumatism, and gout. The ancient Egyptians swore by its healing properties, and it was even found in the funeral garland of Tutankhamun. Clearly, it was one of the must-have healing plants to have in the afterlife. The do's and don'ts when foraging for edible wild plants and foods. Whenever you are foraging for food, there are a few golden rules you should follow. Keep it simple, and you will soon have a kitchen pantry full of interesting and healthy foods. Number 1, take your time and study the subject before you start your new adventure. Buy a good quality book and make sure you take it with you when foraging. Number 2, don't pick mushrooms that you are not totally familiar with when you are out gathering food. Number 3, the best golden rule is to leave alone if you are in doubt about a certain plant. 4, it is not good to forage near cultivated crops as they may have been sprayed with fungicide. 5, stay away from busy roads as plants may have been contaminated by vehicle fuels. 6, children should not be encouraged to go foraging on their own. They may even pick a poisonous plant and become very ill. Foraging for wild food and wild edibles is a learning experience. You can learn a lot about the nutritional value of edible wild plants and foods. Can it save you money? If you do it properly, foraging for foods and wild edibles can save you a lot of money.